Heavenly Father, we need your help.
Yeah.
I need your help, Lord, to keep my mind clear. And there's much information, Lord, but I want to try and cover the book this weekend. So I just pray you'll give us grace now in this next study. Amen. This is study number 5, Methods of Manipulation. There's a quote, people who understand, you know, the elite understand, we don't, we're just the people who get the propaganda. The people at the top, they know, they finally hold, they're trained in methods of how to manipulate whole nations. They're trained. They go to certain colleges and learn. This is what he says. The basic tool for manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words.
Yes.
Words. Well, we know that from God, don't we, the word of God. But Satan knows it, all the world knows it. If you can control the meaning of words, you can control the people who use the words. Did you know they invent words? Collateral damage. You've never heard of that 10 years ago. Where did that come from? Your school teacher didn't know there was such a word, because there wasn't. The Tavistock Centre make up words, collateral damage. It's when people get butchered, but we call it collateral damage. They make these words up to manipulate us. Whenever a new word comes into existence, think, where's that come from? Collateral damage, what's that? We had to ask, didn't we? What's collateral damage? Oh, well, you know, 20,000 people have just been bombed and annihilated, but it's just collateral damage. It's to lessen the effect on the population, so we'll allow atrocities. Can you not see how we're being manipulated? This man knew it. He said if we can control words, you can control the people who use the words. We all talk about collateral damage now, don't we? We don't talk about transport now. Have you ever seen a van now with transport on? What do they call it? The stuff, all the wagons. Logistics. It used to be called transport. What are you in transport? Oh no, I'm in logistics. These words are not by chance. Where did they come from? Who changed it? They're changing our perception of things to manipulate us. Be very careful. Andrew Carnegie, Scotsman, sorry about that. The railroads, he built all the railroads in America, but he was part of the one world system, part of the elite. This is what he said. And while the law of competition may sometimes be hard for the individual, it is the best for the race, human beings, because it ensures the survival of the fittest. Where's he got that from? See, they're into eugenics and they're into it all. He was a eugenist, believing in culling the population. Amazing, isn't it? But it helps the survival of the fittest. Adolf Hitler, you'd expect to write a gem, wouldn't you? Listen what he says. All propaganda must be so popular and on such an intellectual level that even the most stupid of those towards whom it is directed can understand. So he said it doesn't have to be intellectual, but the intellectual level must be that the little maid and the dog can understand it. Listen to what he says. People can be made to perceive paradise as hell, and the other way around, to consider the most wretched life, sort of life, as paradise. People can be made to believe it. And he did it.
He did it as well.
Don't say, oh no, it's true.
He did it.
There's illustrations from history.
Yeah, he did it.
After 6,000 years of Babylon, the seduction of all things physical and spiritual, we now see that Babylon's so sophisticated. Do you remember yesterday I said, well, in the Garden of Eden it was pretty simple. Yes or no. Eat the fruit or don't. No money to seduce Eve, was there? No culture. There was nothing. Babylon, we had a bit more. We had culture, we had all sorts. Then, now we've got so much. They didn't have the entertainment we have. They didn't have television, propaganda machines in Nebuchadnezzar's man. It's got so sophisticated, all embracing now. Every area of society is being used to conform the world to accept the reign of the Antichrist and the Beast. Methods of manipulation. Number 1, drugs and medicine. Did you know that drugs has always been used with witchcraft? The medicine man, the witch doctor, he uses medicine and drugs. They go to the witch doctor for medicine, chemicals or drugs, mind-altering drugs. It's always been used. Because drugs give you an altered state of consciousness. They change your thinking. Music is a drug. Music is a form of drug. Gives you an altered state of consciousness. Loud music can give you an adrenaline rush similar to amphetamines. So it's a drug. You can get hooked on music, get withdrawal systems of music. It's usually the first drug that young people get on. You get hooked on music. Some are not hooked on music. If you get hooked on music, you're likely to go to the next stage, which is soft drugs. People act differently, you see, under drugs, don't they? You're more susceptible to manipulation under drugs. Drink. Could you ever conceive that somebody who's had too much to drink would act in a more godly fashion? Could you ever think in a million years, in any situation, that somebody who's inebriated and can hardly walk would act in a more godly fashion? It's impossible, isn't it? Always the opposite. How many girls have been raped because they've been under the influence of drink? How many men have done things they would never do if they were sober? Men have done perversions that they'd never do. I couldn't do that when I'm sober. They've got drunk and they'll try anything. You'll be amazed what happens. And I'm not just talking about drink and drugs that we think of. I'm talking about other drugs. Even prescription drugs. Do you know what? Nearly every one of these people in America, you go and they shoot 10 students and shoot themselves. They're on Prozac. Every one you can check. Every one of the last. I've got a Christian psychiatrist in America, and he's called it Psychology Debunked. And he says he's tested every single one that went and did the massacre and then shot themselves. They were probably sleepers and probably mind control people. But he said every one of them were on a mind altering drug. They were depressed. They feel so well, they were depressed. Yeah, they were on these mind altering drugs. Soldiers, you see, we've always used drugs. In the last war, you fight better on drugs. You don't need to go to sleep. You'll rape, you'll pillage, you'll act like a machine. Amphetamines were used widespread in World War II. This is well known. Britain issued 72 million tablets to the armed forces, amphetamines. That's the last war. Sports people, they're now using drugs, aren't they? How many people are? Did you know the early Olympians used drugs? I found an article very interesting. Early Olympic Games, it's recorded athletes ate sheep's testicles. He's reputed to describe the rear hooves of an Abyssinian ass, ground up, boiled in oil and flavoured with rosehip and rose petals to improve performance. Whether they worked or not doesn't matter. The fact is they were always looking for drugs, something to give them something extra. What about Noah? He was on drugs. Drink. He got drunk. Yeah. Do you think that would have ever happened? He was naked in his tent.
It was Ham, wasn't it?
And Ham came in and saw him naked. I think he must have done something to him. Because he said he woke and realised what his son had done to him. Didn't say his son had seen him. Because he got cursed, didn't he? I don't think he'd have got cursed for just seeing his father and telling his brothers because they went in backwards and covered him. But whatever, but he was drunk. And it brought the curse on Cain. He was on drugs. Can you see how the devil always uses intoxication, mind-altering substances to get in? And if Noah hadn't got drunk, he'd have never laid naked in his tent, it would have never brought the curse. I've covered this before, but Revelation. This is Babylon, the whore, Babylon the Great. It says you've seduced the whole world by your sorceries. And the Greek word is pharmakia, which means enchantment with drugs. That's what pharmakia is. There are a few different definitions, that's what. Revelation 18:23, I've actually got it there. Oh, there you are, yeah. By your sorceries were all nations deceived. No wonder we've got such an epidemic of drugs. I'm going to quote you some things that, because the British government and the USA are the biggest drug dealers in the world. Billions of dollars.
Was it the USA?
The USA. Are the biggest drug dealers in the world. The British government have always dealt in drugs in the royal family. I said last night the Boxer Wars were fought to keep the opium coming. The East India Company, the ships were full of drugs coming in, opium. It's a massive business. Listen, people at the top are wealthy because they deal in illicit things, drugs. It's massive money, massive profits. The pharmaceutical society, they can earn 10,000% on some drugs. They can't earn that out of natural medicine. The chemicals, the percentage of profits enormous. I know they do research and all that, but they've got so much money they splash it around and buy people and financing. All the courses that Stephen's been on, he's told me, have been financed by the pharmaceutical. He's been to Vienna, he's been to Prague, he's been all over the world, sponsored by the drug companies, because they run the medical system these days in the West. Illegal drugs, one of the world's biggest industries in terms of revenue. One mafia boss, he was accused, and the court said to him, do you deal in drugs? He says, I can't compete with the government. That's what he said in court, I can't compete with the government. As it happens, they work with the government, the IRA, they all work together, but he said it. A legal drug doesn't have a different effect than a legal drug, doesn't have a different effect than a legal one. I don't mean you shouldn't take legal drugs for your health, and that's not my point. I'm saying it has the same effect. It'll still give you an altered state of consciousness, won't it?
It's got a different name.
It's got a different name, but it works, and you know.
Heroin's diamorphine.
Yeah, and thank God if I'm dying, you know, or I'm having my leg chopped off, they'll give me some drug to kill the pain. I'll have to get it out of my system, it'll take a while, I'll have withdrawal and all sorts of things, but it saved my life. So, you know, I'm not knocking the medical system, that's not my point. I'm talking about the principles, okay? I'm just saying, don't think because you're on prescription drugs, they have different effects than illegal ones. They're drugs, so they affect you. It's, you know, sometimes it's the lesser of evils, isn't it? But let me talk about the placebo effect. It's a funny thing, you know, that you perceive. You get better because you think you will. This is the mind, it's very powerful, your mind. There's healing in the mind. I believe many of those evangelists are using mind techniques. You will be healed, you will be healed. Say it, say it, say it. In the end, you can get miracles because of the power of the human spirit. Nothing to do with God. The technique's mind control. It works. And if you've been led by a doctor and a scientist, you think they have all the answers and the truth, then you have faith in them. And faith works. Just like fear works, faith works. Any doctor will tell you, on one hand, the will to live plays a part in a person's recovery. And fear and stress and other things affect our body as well. I've given the testimony before, but a nurse that I knew, this is an extreme case, so don't, but she nevertheless said it, and all the nurses agreed with her. A man came in, he was 30-year-old, fit as a fiddle, muscle man, did weight training, came for tests because he'd had pain or something. Anyway, they found he had cancer. And it wasn't terminal in the sense that he only had 6 months to live. You know, they felt it was treatable and whatever. You know, he never left hospital. He stayed in the bed, she said, and he died in that hospital. After 2 days he was dead. And they all knew the cancer did not kill him. His world had collapsed. He was a strong man, and he just thought, oh, cancer. And the fear and the terror came upon him. And they said, the doctors, we all knew the cancer didn't kill him. It couldn't. The mind's very powerful. So I'm not into the positive affirmation and create your own reality, but I am in having a positive mind. Yeah, we must get the balance.
Absolutely.
So we must be strong. We must say, I'm not giving in. That's do you understand? Be a man of your word. Yeah. So all those things. Don't throw all the baby out with the bathwater when some of these faith preachers preach. A lot of what they say is good. It's with the aim. The ultimate aim is wrong. What they say is not always so wrong.
Can I just say the success of a drug in a trial is the success above placebo. So if you get a double-blind crossover trial, then what they do is compare the drug with placebo.
Right.
Because they can't compare it with another drug. It's a new drug. You can't do comparison trials until it's marketed. So they have to compare it with placebo.
Wow.
So it's always what the drug is above the placebo effect. And the placebo effect, if you look at a lot of trials, is remarkable.
Right. What, like percentage?
Well, maybe if you've got a 15% success rate on placebo and the 25% success rate. At least I'm just thinking, you know, on the real drug. And sometimes they have to abandon the drug because they can't get what they call a significant effect above placebo.
Would you believe that?
Brother.
So they give, do you understand what he's saying? They give somebody a pill with nothing in it, it's filled with sugar, and they get 15% results. 15% people get better on a piece of nonsense. So when they have a drug, it's got to be above what the mind will do.
Statistically significant. That's what the terminology is.
Well, there's from the medical. So, well, Christine was in the medical. We know these things, don't we? So the mind and the drugs, it plays a tremendous part. Well, let me read Isaiah, because he forecast. You know, it wasn't only revelation, but the whole world's been deceived by drugs. But these two things shall come upon thee. He's talking about the fall of Babylon. Loss of children, widowhood, they shall come upon you in perfection. For the multitude of your sorceries. Can you see enchantment with drugs? The food industry, the amount of chemicals they put in food now is amazing. They don't put sugar anymore now, they put NutraSweet. It's from aluminium. It's a residue of aluminium smelting. Man discovered it from the smelting aluminium, and he tasted it was sweet. They didn't know what to do, it's toxic waste. And so they were going to throw it away. And then they decided it's sweet, why don't we put it in very small quantities? And we get it now, NutraSweet. They're actual toxics, they're poisons, they're toxic waste. Fluoride, they use sodium fluoride. Hitler used it in the concentration camps to dumb people down so they wouldn't resist and try and escape. It dumbed them down and just, you know, happy. Like a mild form of Valium, I suppose. That's fluoride that you're taking every day. It builds up over 20, 30 years. You don't feel the effect. It's very, very small. But over the years you build it. Aluminium is following. Gold's good for your body, isn't it? Yeah. Lead's bad. Yeah. Mercury's bad. Aluminium's bad. And so when you take these sugars, sweeteners, saccharin and all those, they've got aluminium in. And they've proven that people with Alzheimer's disease, when they look at the brains, they have a bigger deposit of aluminium than those who have not got Alzheimer's. It builds up over many, many, many years, the aluminium in your brain. It can't get rid of it because it doesn't recognise it as food. We're now taking antibiotics. All of us take antibiotics, whether you know it or not. It's in the beef. Yeah. They inject all the beef and all the cattle with loads of antibiotics, and we're getting it now in the food chain. It's already in it, breaking down our immune systems. So we're getting the build-up of mercury through vaccinations, and aluminium residing in sweeteners. Aspartame, NutraSweet, they're both toxic. They cause cancers, Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can't catch cancer. They're not diseases, you don't catch it, it's your body out of order. And our bodies are getting out of order with all the things. Sugar diabetes is your body out of order, you can't catch it. And there's so much in the drug. We've got to thank God for our food and enjoy it. We can't get paranoid. I can't afford to have all organic, and I say, Lord, bless it to me. If you eat any deadly thing, it will not harm you. That's one of the promises of being filled with the Holy Ghost.
Amen.
So don't worry.
Amen.
No, be educated. All right. If you have any deadly thing, it won't harm you. You shall cast out devils, heal the sick. If you eat any deadly thing, it won't harm. So don't get paranoid, because you can spend all your life checking the food and not enjoying it. Eat your meat with gladness. Even if it's been offered to demons and idols. Paul says, look, by faith, I'm going to eat it and enjoy it because God made it.
That's right.
I don't care what it's been offered to me. All things are pure to the point. I have faith to eat it. If you don't have faith, don't eat it.
That's right.
When I go to Africa, I don't have inoculations. I go by faith. If I was worried, I'd have them. It's all right. Whatever you do, do with faith. What's not faith is sin. Yeah. So have faith, but don't sin. Take the medicine. You need to be one. Don't fall in the middle. All right, I've said enough about that. So it's dumbing us down. A lot of these things they put in the food, it's to make us docile. We're not going to rebel against the atrocities that are coming. I put the quote there, I already mentioned Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, openly said he thinks population control should be done through vaccinations in the third world. That's a quote from him. All right, that's through drugs. It's working on us. Number 2, images. Images are powerful. Apart from the repetitious material, so the adverts, you don't see an advert once, do you? Comes on and on and on and on. You get sick. At first you think, wow, it's a brilliant advert. After a few times it gets up your nose, doesn't it? And you've just got to sit through it. But the repetition works. Don't think they would spend billions of pounds a year on adverts if they didn't work. Don't say, oh, it doesn't affect me. You're naive. They wouldn't spend the money if it didn't affect you. But what about subliminal techniques that we can do now? One way is through images, too quick for our conscious mind to see. Have you seen the pop videos, how quickly they flash? They put images there that you don't see. If you slow them down, you may see one image of a naked lady, but you don't see it in all that's going on. Subliminal. I've just done a little experiment. Joni, that on your desktop. Here's a clip of Joni. All right, look for a subliminal message. Did you see that flash? Some of you saw it. Did you all see it? No.
The flash, but I didn't see what it was.
Do it again. Alright, now I could hide that. I've done it. I'll now show you what I put in. I only put one frame. There's 25 frames every second, okay? So every second you see it, there's 25. That's why you get the deception of moving. So I put one frame in that was different. But I could have superimposed it over it and you wouldn't have even seen the flash. But I've done it overtly. So show them what I put up, Jay, that you couldn't read. Pornography is good for you. Now you didn't see that message, did you? But your brain saw it because you saw the flash. It's flashed in your brain. You saw it in your subliminal mind. That's why kids are into pornography. Why do you think young kids watch pornography? Why do you think do things? Because it's so easy to manipulate them. And that's very crude. It took me about 2 minutes to do it. Disney's famous for putting sexual images up in the thing. I've got a book I recommended, Disney and the Occult. They put pictures of all sorts.
Oh, there's loads. You can see them on YouTube anyway.
You can YouTube, just do it. Subliminal images in Disney movies. In The Lion King, they've got all the stars, and if you freeze the frame, it says sex. Now, why would they put sex in the shape of stars? Because the kids are getting the best. That's why the kids at 12 and 14 are wanting to have sex, because they're brainwashed with it, all the images. Film is a very deceptive medium, because it's an illusion. There's no such thing as moving pictures. They show 25 stills every second. So, 1 still, 2 still, 3, 4, 5, 6, have different positions. When you see it at 25 a second, it's nice and smooth, okay. But it's a line, nothing moved. 25, so it's already a deceptive method, okay. And it's easy to manipulate. Our brain doesn't see that there's stills. That pornography is good for you was a still, wasn't moving. And it went in. Very deceptive medium. Repetition is a good brainwashing technique. You know that, don't you? Drip, 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 the Chinese water torture. Repetition. So when this show keeps showing us, when kids watch pop videos time and time and time again, they have no idea they're being brainwashed subliminally. You have no choice in it. You watch a load of TV adverts, if there's a great tune on it, you'll be singing it. So flashing lights. Thoughts are easiest to place in when you're on drugs, when you have the flashing lights. Messages can go in easier. It's a form of hypnosis. That's why churches have the worship, the raves. Loud music sometimes before it opens you up to what you're going to accept other people please, because the music's affected you.
It's in the house.
It's not by chance.
Yeah.
The early church, there's no mention of music or worship before preaching, is there? The early church you met in houses, it'd be a cappella, that means with no music, just singing. It'll be unrehearsed and spontaneous, they would just sing. That's how it would be. Nothing wrong with a piano, there's no demons in it, but you don't need it. We could worship God with or without a piano, couldn't we? Yeah. But today they can't worship without the band and the people and choreographed dancing at the front. Nothing wrong with dance. Symbols, what about symbols? They use symbols in advertising now. Very effective for getting an image in your mind. It tells you triangles, pyramids. There's an absolute glut of them wherever you go. Buildings, banks have pyramids on top. AOL, the pyramid. Owl. AOL, owl.
Oh.
Why are they putting pyramids? I mean, that's not a building. Who lives in that? It's not even a dog kennel. I mean, what? It's just a pyramid. Why are they putting pyramids there? It's letting you know the ancient religions. There's a bank, London. Look at the. Well, why did they put a pyramid on top of their building, for goodness sake? Who lives in that? It's designed. People say, oh, it's designed. Yeah, but what design? That's. Why did they put so many triangles? They're letting you know. That's just one of hundreds of images I could show you that are occult in origin, and they're letting you know, and they're placing them in our minds. You think, well, what can that do? It's getting the images. Images are important. There, Royal Exchange in London. There's another one, pyramids on the top. You see the Da Vinci Code, you see the big one in Paris. Number 3, we've looked at drugs, we've looked at images. Speed of life. It's one of the devil's tools to manipulate us. What did Daniel say? In the last days knowledge will increase and men will run to and fro. Knowledge will increase. This is part of Babylon to seduce. There's so much knowledge you don't know what to believe. I've quoted this before. Anyone who reads the Sunday Times this Sunday, there's more information in the Sunday Times than a man would get in his whole lifetime 100 years ago. Let me say that again, just to exponential rise in information. If you read just the Sunday Times, all right, it's thicker, isn't it, with the supplement, but if you read that, there's more information in that than a man living 100 years ago would get in his whole life, over 70 years, and there's more information there. He'd live in his village and he wouldn't know much about the world. Have you read of any of Alvin Toffler's books? Well, the first one was 1970, I read them. He talks about information overload, that our brains, although our brain, we only use a small percentage of it, maybe because of the fall, I don't know, but he said we can't use much more, because you use energy to work your brain. Did you know, when you're tired, your brain doesn't work so well, so you need food. He says, and it's impossible without demons and spiritual help. It's impossible physically to use your brain, because you couldn't get enough energy to use it. Some people come home from work in the office, they've not lifted a shovel, they've not walked about, they're sat with a computer all the day, and they come home shattered. More so than a man who's been digging the road. Information and brain tires you much more than your body. You use energy. You use energy to use your brain. So I said it's impossible. And he was talking about information doubles almost every 6 months. That's at the moment. Did you know it puts stress on you? Information, knowing so much. Here's a quote from a newspaper. Somebody sent this to me when I was at Stephen's writing a book, and Jeff Hemsley sent me an email. He said, look at this. A new material could make the internet 100 times faster. 100 times, not double the speed now. If it's 100 times faster, it's instant, isn't it? Whatever you press, whether you're watching something, a massive file, it's instant. Everything's instant. Just like you watch television, it's instant. 100 times faster. Test on carbon extract, graphene, just 1 atom thick, and I don't know how thick that is, do you? 1 atom.
No, we couldn't imagine it.
I was a draftsman, so I understand a millimetre and a 32nd, a 64th of an inch, which that was like, you didn't go much less than that. But an atom thick, I just have to believe it, I don't, obviously you can't see it, but 1 atom thick, listen, it's shown to be a superior conductor that could bring a communications revolution. 3,000 million layers of it would make a flexible cable 1 millimetre wide.
Wow.
3,000 million.
That's 3 trillion.
I think that would be 3 trillion, yeah. Just 1 millimetre. A millimetre's like that, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Thread on your tyre when it's half bald. Amazing. Information. Can you believe that? 3 trillion. 3 trillion cables, that's like in 1 millimetre. 3 trillion cables of 1 atom thick. It's ridiculous. I can't keep up with it. This man said to me as I was writing the book, it'll be out of date now. If you get a degree and come out of university, if you don't get a job in 2 years, you can forget it, because your degree's out of date. Technology that you learn, so if you're in computers and things, you're out of date. But the same verse says knowledge will increase, says men will run to and fro. With the advent of the train, the motorcycle, the aeroplane, a journey that would have taken weeks 150 years ago, now in hours.
Yeah.
You can get to New York in 5 hours, can't you? Manchester to London, 2.5 hours. Used to take 2 or 3 days to get to London, maybe a week on horse. Did you know it puts tremendous subliminal pressure on our bodies, travel? But more so on our minds. 100 years ago, I put this in another book, 100 years ago a man had walked to work, probably over the fields, farmer, on the green grass, not tarmac that damages your cartilages, soft grass. He'd hear the birds singing. He'd feel the ambience of the countryside. God's peaceful. Goodness me, now you get in your car, travelling at 60 miles an hour, he'd walk at 4 miles an hour. If he was late for work or in a rush, you'd get a horse and travel at 50 miles an hour. You still smell the horse and you get the smells of God's creation. Now we're in a car with our perfume on and our perfumed car, and we sit to work, we're all in a little glass box listening to some music, bombarding our brain. And you'll have to look at thousands upon thousands upon thousands of images just driving to work. Every poster you see, your brain has to say, ignore that, there's traffic, ignore that, but it has to make a decision. It's not by saying, well, I don't look at the posters. You've got to not look at them.
Yeah.
You understand? They're there, so you can't say, well, I don't see them. Your brain sees them because it might be, and I'll tell you what, I'll tell you how you know your brain sees them. You look at them, you're not looking at the posters. I'll tell you what, I'm a man. If I'm driving along and I don't look at the posters, there's one with a naked lady, my head will turn. I'll have to turn away. My brain says you like that. If there's something you like, a new Porsche or a motor car that you like and you're driving, your brain says you like that. It tells us what we like. It's got to filter, you see. And if you're not interested in that, it'll filter. You won't see it. But all these images, you've got to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, as well as the traffic and all the pressure. And your wife's stressed, so she sent you out with a thick ear and no lunch. And you get to work, some people get to work, they're shattered just with the journey. That's terrible. And the stress of getting to work, don't you think that's terrible? But you see, knowledge and men will run to and from, and it's putting stress. And when you have stress on your body, you're open to suggestions. Men become alcoholics because they're stressed. The wife's left them and they're stressed, so they take drink, something to relieve it. Don't criticise them.
No.
If your wife's never left you, you know, don't criticise them. They're not Christians, they need something. We don't need that, but they become alcoholic. I'm going to have an affair. Anything to relieve the tension. Don't be too critical on the world. Don't expect them to live righteous. How are they going to handle the stress of the world? It's the Christians that do those things and hard on. We've got the mind of Christ, or should have. Shows that they don't. I looked at the Mail on Sunday. Mail Online. May the 22nd, 2013. This is while I was at Stevens. What do you think? 13.5 million working days a year are lost because of stress-related illnesses. This is part of Babylon. To increase it and get us so stressed, we'll accept anything. And we need our... Yeah, but the boxing's on, so I can handle the work because the boxing's or United, or I'm going to this festival at the weekend. We can handle the stress because they've given us the entertainment to escape. Do you understand? So that we get in this rat race, they control us. 13.5 million workers a year are lost because of stress-related illness. Previous research has found that in Britain, as many as 1 in 5 workers, 1 in 5, or 5 million, are believed to suffer from work-related stress. That's pathetic. We're in the West. We've got our comfortable homes, we've got our cars, we've got our continental holidays to unwell. Who else could be more satisfied than us and stress-free? Come on. Yeah, I mean, some of you just been to Uganda and they're less stressed than us.
Yeah.
In the poverty. And we've got everything and we're stressed up to the eyeballs. People are on tranquilizers and Valium and just to get through the day, and drug taking's enormous in the country. Just things to keep us level, and people, you need this and you need that, and stress. And Well, an estimated 500,000 have experienced stress at a level they believe made them ill. This is just Great Britain. And no one bats an eyelid. This is what the online mail said. This is not me saying nobody bats an eyelid. They're telling you nobody bats, and nobody will do anything about it. They'll all go to work and say, did you know how many people are stressed? Yeah, well, I'm stressed. Well, I'm having a day off work, and if all those are, that's the level of the stupid talk they'll have. Nobody will bother. The world carries on at the same speed, rushing headlong into Babylon's one world trap.
Go way fast.
All right, number 4, education. This is what education used to be. Samuel Johnson, you've heard of him, haven't you? The supreme end of education, listen to this. This is what they used to think about education. It's the expert discernment in all things. This is what education's for. The power to tell the good from the bad, the genuine from the counterfeit, and to prefer the good and genuine to the bad and counterfeit. That's what education was about. Not reading and writing, of course, but the whole education was to make you so you can discern to live a moral life. What's good and what's bad, and to choose what's good and bad. That was the aim of education, he said. To teach children how to think for themselves and express their individual talents and opinions. That's what it was all about. It's been dumbed down. Education is now to regurgitate what you've been told. You don't think for yourself, you listen to what they've said, you only use half part of your brain. You don't use the part of the brain that can think and challenge. You don't challenge it. Don't challenge a teacher, goodness me. I got slapped round the ear because I challenged the teacher on evolution. Came up behind me and went, whack! Smacked me across the head. They could do it in those days. Because they said we didn't come from monkeys. Whacked me across the head. He was really into evolution. Well, they did strap you in those days. I got it all the time. I was like, open my big mouth. I mean, mischievous I was. I'd say something to all the class. I'd go, come here, little man. Mr. O'Reilly, we call him the Irish bogweed. He said, this is going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me. Bend down, Barratt. I got the strap all the time. I couldn't. Like Isaac, I was mischievous. I'd say something and they'd all laugh, you know. But this time, he got mad and cracked me right round the head from my back. I didn't expect it. That was worse because I was sat there and he'd walked up and down, you know, they'd done. Suddenly, I just got nearly knocked me off my seat. You don't challenge the establishment. They know, they're educated, they know. It's the same in church. Listen, I've been to Bible college. You know, just trust me. You haven't been to Bible college. I've studied 3 years. I've got a doctorate of divinity. Catholicism now. Don't read your own Bible. Ask the priest. Go and ask the pastor. Don't seek God for goodness sake. Ask the pastor. Get his advice because he's been indoctrinated, you see. He's safe. He'll toe the political, religious line. Did you know the standard is low of education in the West? Did you know it's laughable? I'll challenge you. There's a book I recommend, and it gives an exam paper from 150 years ago. Look at it, you'll see how ignorant. I showed it Stephen. All right, it was American, so the history and that maybe, but it just shows you. A 14-year-old was expected to answer that. Now we have multiple choice. The Battle of Hastings, was it 1066, 1143, or 19500? And you'll think, and it triggers, you'll trigger the right one because you'll be told it was 1066, wasn't it? But if you don't know, you've got 30% of getting it right if you didn't know. If you only got 3 choices, you've got 30% of hitting it. If you didn't know, that's how they pass exams. My Isaac's just got 11 GCEs, goodness me, he's not that clever. He's not stupid. But, you know, 11 GCs, it's ridiculous. The standard's gone down so much you've done. Do you know some of the teachers are quite ignorant, don't know the grammar? You'd be amazed how we've dumbed down the education system. There's a book, Charlotte, what's her name? Thompson Istrati. I don't know how you pronounce it. She married a Belgian man, so that's it. But she works at the highest level in the American government. Under Reagan and those, okay, when the Cold War was on. And she's documented and written a book, The Dumbing Down of America, how at the highest level in Russia and USA, they agreed in the Cold War to combine the education of the two nations, to dumb them down. Would you believe it? This is it, part of the plan. And it's on the government record. She was at the top. All right, I'm not just talking about somebody who worked in the school. She was right up the top of the government, taught to Ronald Reagan, went across to Russia and spoke to was it Kasika, whoever was there at the time, and she whistle blew. Part of the plan was to dumb down education of the schools and universities into propaganda, indoctrination, so a generation would emerge, and we're getting close to it now, that wouldn't resist change and believe all media without question. This is what they're doing. Any intelligent person can see we're very close to the situation now. Pretty close. People believe the media, don't they? All right, number 5, films and entertainment. These are methods of manipulation for Babylon. Did you know Hollywood's increased the themes that prepare us for the beast and control? Plethora of films have put into our minds the thoughts that aliens are coming to help us and prepare us for a new tomorrow. Loads of films about aliens coming to help us. There's going to be an alien invasion, supposed, to scare us. First there was communism, then there was a threat of terrorism, which we're in now, then there'll be an alien invasion to bring the one world in. I'll go through it later. H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, do you remember that? That set the theme of the aliens coming to Earth as hostile beings. But there was a change. From aliens being hostile and, oh, we've got to fight them, in the 70s they began to get friendly. Remember E.T.? Friendly little alien. We've got to accept them. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Aliens became friendly and benevolent. But we've now got many films where aliens are talking to people and re-educating them. Or they're taking DNA from us. DNA, I'm going to talk a lot about DNA. The aliens are coming in these films taking DNA from us to create humans and hybrids and things. I look at the film trailer for Skyline. Remember, that was a blockbuster 6 months ago. Skyline, I saw it. These are the themes for the music. You know that they get composers to write the music. Look at the trailer. At one point, there's all these people going. It looks like the Christian Rapture. You'll see whole thousands of people all rising into the sky, into the spaceship. It just looks like we would paint the Rapture. Look at the musical titles. Matthew Margeson, Don't Look Up. These are the themes they write, different themes to go in the film, and they put titles to them. Well, this is what I wrote for that film. Don't Look Up. Abduction, a ship down, Scanner. They're Not Dead, Maker of the Cavalry. Arrival, I've highlighted them. The Resurrection, the Final Battle. It's almost like a Christian movie, isn't it?
Arrival.
They know what they're doing. The Arrival, the Resurrection, the Final Battle. They're all prophecies of what's happening. Well, we've long accepted humans with superpowers, haven't we? Hybrids they are. Sons of God mating with the daughters of men. They were in the pre-flood, weren't they? Genesis 6. They were after the flood.
Yes.
It says they were there, and after this. There was plenty of giants after the flood. They all got killed in the flood, obviously. There was giants. Do you know why? Canaan was full of them. Canaan was full of giants when they went in. I've listed it in the old book where the giants came from, the different tribes. Og, king of Bashan, a giant. Bed was 13 foot long. Goliath was a giant. Where did he come from? And they had powers, they had superpowers. Superman is a hybrid. He's not fully human, is he? Spider-Man, they're not fully... We're accepting this transhumanism, people with a changed DNA. Don't forget when the spider bit Spider-Man, he altered. He had spider-like qualities because he had the DNA of a spider. Are you getting the message? They don't tell you that they got a DNA, but now he can put things out of his fingers and stick like a spider, and because he's got human but the DNA of a spider. They're letting us know it won't come through a spider bite, will it? But they're letting you know he's not fully human. They're not fully human. And in the early films, Superman, he'd come down with Lois Lane, he'd fall in love with it because he's half human, but he knew he couldn't marry her. He always, when he got there, you saw his heart longing for her, but he went away. Why? Because he knew he was a hybrid. He's not fully human. So they never made love, they never did it. Now, all the films that you're watching and the series on television, they're actually making love. These humanoids, these people from other planets, these supernatural beings, they're actually marrying and making love to women. It's getting closer. As in the days of Noah, so it will be in the end. It's happening again. We're going to get demons and angels coming down and mating with women, and we're going to get supermen out of them, hybrids. And the rest will do it by DNA. They're already altering our DNA. Part of the plan is to accept transhumanism. It's part of evolution. See, we've evolved now as far as we can in human form. We've got intelligence now. We can make computers that can design computers. We can't get any more intelligent. We've reached our level now. The only way we'll get a quantum leap is to change our spirituality and transform by initiation, by DNA. Because now we can do it. With DNA, you can have powers, you can have superpowers. Do you know that?
Yep.
They're experimenting with soldiers. The American army are experimenting with soldiers, putting the DNA of an eagle and a cat into the soldiers so they can see at night and see further.
Wow. Television.
They're experimenting now. Steve told me that some of the drugs that I use, it alters your DNA, stops you being, that's what makes you human, your DNA. If they put the DNA of an animal in you, technically you're no longer human, you're a hybrid. If they put the DNA of a pig into your body, your mother could have been a pig or a human, because you're not fully human. So part of evolution is to change us. We're ready for the next quantum leap in our evolutionary process. And those that won't accept it will be left behind. If you won't have your DNA change and become a superhuman, part of this new human race, they'll annihilate you. That will decide who they get rid of. That's why evolution's so important, that they preached it, although it's a lie. That's why it's taught as a fact in the schools when it's still only a theory. In fact, it's not even a theory, it's a hypothesis. They can't do an experiment to prove it, so it can't be a theory. A theory, you've got to be able to do an experiment to make it a theory, a proof theory. So it's just a thought, a hypothesis, that's all it is. If we get down to the nitty-gritty. Well, these abominations caused God to destroy the earth. In the days of Noah, it wasn't only the violence, it was the giants in the earth who mated with women, and God destroyed the planet. So if we're getting the same again, that abomination of mixing humans with animals, genetically, we're getting pretty close to when God's going to say enough. Do you understand? That's my point. We're pretty close. Christians are being seduced by these films. They're accepting what Superman and all those. And it's okay if you watch it to learn what the devil's doing, but don't watch it for entertainment. Don't watch the Da Vinci Code for entertainment. You need to see what it's preaching at you. Watch the films to educate you. Be careful. But watch them, not for entertainment. Don't get involved in it. Say, wow, they're actually preaching. Don't say, oh, that's not Christian, that's not. Listen, of course it isn't Christian. They're preaching at you. Every film is a medium to preach. Music is a medium to preach. Poetry, acting is a medium to preach. Dance is a medium. You're getting a message across. That's what the arts are about, getting a message across. Whether it's painting or dancing or sculpture. And Christians have been seduced by the principles of the New Age. That's why they accept it. In the church, they've watched so many films, they've got used to it. Because it's worked on the subconscious mind and it's got in the heart, they accept it. Many Christians now accept some form of evolution over creation because of the media's effect on the subconscious mind. The hearts have become darkened. The hearts become dark. They watch so many films, they begin, well, maybe God did it in 7,000 years, not 7 days. Yeah. And maybe it's the second creation, maybe between Genesis 1 and 2, the devil came down and all this nonsense. Yeah. That's not in the Bible, it's pure speculation. Yeah. Pure speculation. The devil wasn't cast out of heaven. No. He's still not been cast out of heaven. He's waiting till the bride goes up. Otherwise, how can he be the accuser of the brethren? Unless he's got access to the court in heaven. The hearts have been darkened. Put the scripture up, Jay. Romans 1:21. Because talking about Christians, we think that's the world, Romans 1. He's talking about God's people. When they knew God, so the heathen don't know God, do they? So he can't be talking about the world. It says when they knew God, They didn't glorify him as God. Their hearts were darkened, vain in their imaginations, vanity, what, all the nonsense going in, and in the end, they don't glorify God. They worship the creation over the Creator. Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance. We've not got to be ignorant. That's part of my job this week. In the blindness of their heart, of giving themselves over to lasciviousness, working all uncleanness with greediness. But you've not so learned of Christ. So be renewed in the spirit of your mind. We've got to get it in our minds. We've got to renew our mind. We've got to not be naive at the devil's techniques. We're not ignorant of his devices. This weekend is only to educate you. It's a horrible weekend for me because I'd rather talk about the love of God and discipleship. I'd rather talk about that. I've got to talk about all this filth and that that's going on to educate you for manipulation. Do you understand? Number 6, music. What Leo Tolstoy said. Music makes me forget my real situation. It transports me into a state which is not my own. This sounds like LSD, doesn't it? Under the influence of the music, I really seem to feel what I do not understand, to have powers which I cannot have. That's a very educated man, Tolstoy. We're not talking about some acid head, are we? We're talking about some great intellect. Music as a drug, it affects us. Christians often think they're in the spirit when they're in loud music sessions, worship, but they're shooting adrenaline.
Yeah.
Loud music makes you shoot adrenaline, and you can be in the worship, and it's wonderful, but that drum beat and the strobe lights, you shoot an adrenaline, and it's a drug, you get high on it. So when they come home from the meeting, what's on telly? They want to watch United Sunday afternoon, because they don't go full of God. They don't go into the closet and say, I'll spend an hour with God. Goodness me, United's on. Because they've had a high, they've had the trip. Now I can't wait for the next meeting. Roll on, good worship. Because they need the fix, they shoot adrenaline there, and they think it's the Holy Ghost. I'm not against music, I'm a musician. I'm against the abuse of music. Number 7, sport. Did you know sport's a powerful tool
Yeah.
of the one world system? I'll read you from the Protocols of the Elder Design in a minute. But why sport? It's a form of entertainment now. It's to divert the minds of the masses away from reality. It's entertainment, so it diverts you from, you're going through a divorce, your kids are on drugs, your church is in a mess, you've no finances. But sport diverts your mind off reality, because it's entertainment. All entertainment is escapism. I know you've got problems, but let me tell you a joke about your mother-in-law. Forget your problems. Because when you go home, your wife's still falling out with you. Kids are still on drugs. It's just escapism for a while. Listen, don't criticise the world. They need to escape the realities of the modern world. The husband doesn't love them. He's so bothered about business. There's all sorts of problems that people have. They need to escape into television or a drink at night before they get to bed. They need it. I'm criticising Christians who need it, okay? The world need it. It doesn't matter that we're practising abortion, euthanasia and accepting sexual perversion as normal. Our team's in the final this Saturday.
0.
We don't think about abortion, sexual perversion, rampant. It doesn't matter because you roll on Saturday, United's playing. I'm not against sport. Competition's good, sport's healthy. Tabby started going to a rugby club. I think it's good for camaraderie and different things and mental toughness. I'm talking about when it's used as manipulation for the masses. Sport fills conversations at work. You go in a factory, it's all about their football at the weekend.
Yeah.
Social networks. Look at the social networks. As soon as the season started, all the Christian friends of mine, whoa, Liverpool, we're going to win the cup, and United, and all that tails off a bit. They're into it. The newspapers, how many pages in the Daily Mirror is devoted to sport now more than ever? Used to be the back page, didn't it? Used to be the back page of the newspaper was a bit of sport. Now it's the last 10 pages, isn't it?
Yeah.
Taking over. Well, those who planned to take over the world knew what they were doing. You know, when I was in America, I've not been for a few years, but I often expected that the pastor who invited me was as much interested in basketball or American soccer as he was in God. Sunday afternoon we'd come home and we wouldn't miss that baseball. They'd close the meeting early to get home for the baseball. Very, very big sport in America. It's a powerful tool to divert the masses from reality. Listen, those who run the one world system, the protocols of the elders of Zion, about 100 years old now. I'll say it again, people say it was a hoax, it wasn't true. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Everyone accepts it's 100 years old, and anyone with half a brain can see that all that it prophesied is happening. So does it matter who wrote it? Not arguing, did Paul write Hebrews? Well, why argue about that? The Holy Ghost wrote the Bible, inspired men. Does it matter who held the pen?
Yeah.
What are we arguing about? Peripherals and stuff that doesn't matter. Well, this is it. This is a direct quote. In order that the masses themselves may not guess what they are about, we further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, people's palaces. Soon we shall begin through the press to promote competitions in art, in sport, in all kinds. This was 100 years ago. These interests will finally distract their minds from questions in which we'd find ourselves compelled to oppose them. We'd have to challenge them because they'd rebel against what's happening. Nobody wanted euthanasia, nobody wanted abortion. Nobody wanted homosexuality. If they'd have had a referendum, would we have voted for abortion in this country? Of course we wouldn't. Euthanasia, all these things that the public would have never voted them in. They brought them in without our consent. They only have a referendum when they know what the answer will be. They're not stupid. Do you think they'll lose power and give it to the people? They push through what they want. Well, that's what they said. Number 8, fear and terrorism. Fear's always been used to control people. 9/11 was a planned event. I know people say, oh, conspiracy theories. But terror is a great mind weapon. What do you think of terrorism? Somebody planting a bomb on a bus. That isn't terrorism really, because the word is terror. It's whatever puts terror into you. Or a husband can put terror into his wife if she thinks he's going to beat her. He's a terrorist. We put it, it's Al-Qaeda and the Arabs as though they're terrorists. Listen, I can terrorise my child. I can make my child sick with shouting at him whether they throw up because I'm so terrorised and traumatised. It's terrorism. It's nothing to do with the bombing. It's whether you're terrorised. If you decide not to be terrorised, you're free. I've decided I will never be terrorised. I don't care whether they call him a terrorist or a peace lover. I'm not going to be terrified. I will not fear. Don't let it fool you. A lot of these things are planned by the MI5. Some of these incidents and people, that black man, do you remember who went and axed somebody, did that atrocity in London?
In London, yeah.
They found out that was a fake. It was the MI5 who did that. It's all to make us fear, oh, they come in here and it's setting us up, the fear of terrorism. They don't mind doing things like that. If America, if the people will bring the Twin Towers down and kill 400 people like that, just so they could go to war with Iran and there's no scruples with these people at the top. Don't think they're nice people. They're wicked, malicious, demon-possessed people to do these things. They'll cause wars, they'll do anything. 70 Americans die every year from terrorism on average. 500,000 die from heart disease. Does it add up? All the billions they're spending on homeland security. How many people do you think die of terrorism in England and the millions we spend on security and all that? 500,000 die of coronary heart disease. But you see, it's just a hoax, the terrorism, to get us to submit. This is a plan of fear. I've got the documentation for it. First of all, the plan number 1 was to use communism, instigated by the capitalists of the West, as a fear to the West, to put us under other commies. It was instigated, financed and controlled by the capitalists of the West. The second one, which we're in now, was to use terrorism and rogue dictators. Saddam Hussein, Colonel Gaddafi, rogue dictators. This was prophesied years ago. We're seeing that all these rogue dictators fear. They've now got weapons facing the West. Colonel Gaddafi could put a bomb on London. Oh, well, take him out. America, did you know America didn't even know where Iran was? You ask an American, they don't know the geography, Americans. God bless you, American, if you're watching, but they don't know. When I go to America and I say, somebody says they come from Wales, they say, what part of England is that? They didn't know where Brussels was, they didn't know it was in Europe until they hear European community. They don't know the geography, because it's so big, America. And they don't need to know, they know everything. The GIs don't learn the language when they come, because they're Americans, so you've got to try and speak American. They didn't learn German, the GIs, why would they? That's the way they are. They're very benevolent and generous people, but very arrogant. Because they're America, we're the greatest, richest nation in the world. They've been built up that we're the greatest, the American dream. We've educated the world, we've financed the world, I love them. They're wonderful people, they're very hospitable and they're great, but, you know, we all have attitudes, don't we? Except the Scotch. No, we all have, and the Chinese. No, we all have attitudes, don't we? So, you know, criticise the English, we've got the stiff upper lip or the, you know, the smile and the hate inside, whatever it is, we're... So the plan was to use communism as threat, then terrorism and roll down dictators, and the third one, the final great threat of an alien invasion. Have you noticed the films? All the films where there's aliens coming and we've got to take them out before they reach here. There's loads of films now about it. That's going to be the last threat. They'll say there's an alien invasion. And I'll tell you what, we'll panic then. We'll need a one world government. What do you think brought the coalition? The last war. The Conservatives and that, and they chose Winston Churchill. But it was a coalition, wasn't it? Listen, you don't get those to get together unless there's an emergency, the three parties. They got together. The whole world would get together if there's a threat to the world. Do you understand? It's the final threat. I've got lots of stuff in the book about it. Testimonies of people who were in the war machine and the arms, high up. Don't put Joe Soap or me saying it. I've got lots of appendixes in the book. Religion. Did you know religion is being used? It's one of the big tools of Satan to manipulate people. Look at that quote. All religions are founded on the fear of the many and the cleverness of the few. That's a clever statement. I believe it. The fear of the many and the cleverness of the few. Because the few rule the many. Executive council of the denomination. The hierarchy of the Catholic Church. The Baptist Union. The few run the many. And if you'll get excommunicated if you're not good, if you don't toe the line. You've got to have the same doctrines, you see. What did Napoleon say? All religions have been made by men. All religions. God never started a religion. Israel started Judaism, Hebrewism. God started a relationship with Abram and made a nation of him. And God said, you're my wife, Israel. It was a relationship of love, not a religion. They turned it into a religion. They went to Babylon and came back and started from Hebrewism, if you want to call it that, Judaism, which is a religion inspired by Satan. All religion inspired by Satan. Jesus didn't come to start a religion called Christianity. He came to give us a relationship back to God. It's about love. You don't need a religion if you've got love. Yeah. You need a religion if you have no love in your life, because you need to conform. Love has no rules, but people like rules. Yeah, but I don't miss church. People want to be under bondage. People don't want to work for themselves. It's too frightening. I want to have my wages at the end of the week, so, you know, I never get up for work, but the fear of getting the sack makes me go to work. People need fear to love their lives, because they're not how God created them. You should be able to get up whether you've got work or not. Sorry. As soon as I'm out of work or sleep in bed till 1 o'clock, you see, it's tough, isn't it? But we're Christians. We shouldn't rely on that. The fear of the sack to get us up in the morning, and the fear of the wages to work hard. I'm a Christian. I should work hard whether I get wages or not. If I'm voluntary work in a hospital, why don't I work harder than the nurses to show I'm doing it for free? Why do we work for our wages? The fear of, oh, I've got no money. We should live without carefulness, without fear. People say, I live by faith. No, they don't. That doesn't mean you have to have no job like me. I live by faith, but you should live by faith.
Yeah.
You shouldn't rely on your boss to pay your wages, it's God. And if the boss doesn't pay you, it's all right, where do I go now, Lord? Or do you want me to cut my standard of living? It doesn't matter. We're working for the God of the creation, and he loves us.
Amen.
And if you love him, you're secure. What do you need a religion for? To control you, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Every religion controls you, I don't care what it is. Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity. Fancy Jesus coming to give us a relationship back to God, and we've turned it into a religion with dogma and forms and denominations. I'm of Paul, I'm of Apollos, I'm Pentecostal, I'm Baptist. Are you not carnal? That's what Paul said. Are you not carnal when you have all that? Were you baptised in the name of the Pentecostals? Were you saved in the name of the Charismatics? It's all about God. He said there's only one Jesus. Say you love Jesus if you want to call this Barratt Ministries or the Church of the Wonderful People in Scotland or Chinese Revival Centre. Goodness me, I've got a name. I'm called Maurice Barratt. Don't worry about the name. For God's sake, don't turn it into a religion and a constitution and a set of rules and have a secretary and a treasurer to look after the finances, of course. What's finance got to do with love and relationships? Am I going over the top?
I'm disappointed I
Yes.
to get secretaries.
To only have God isn't acceptable to the majority of Christians. To only have God. Jeff Bates says, doesn't he? He went to the lady and she said, oh, this has happened and that's happened and the other's happened. She says, and all I've got left is God. I've only got God now. And he said, oh, poor you. Only God. He says, I didn't come to that. That's the best thing, because then he stripped everything away and all she's got is God. Don't you think that's wonderful? Yeah. But we don't want to get rid of things, do we? Christians need the support of a system to feel secure. And the fact that so many people feel the same way makes you feel better. The great deception of, I'll talk about Pentecostals, is that they believe themselves to be free. That's the great deception. They think they're free. That's why every meeting's the same. Yeah. The order of service, I know what'll happen when they go to a Pentecostal church. You know what'll happen, don't you? Yeah. I remember the old traditional Pentecostal, that have a thing, that have three speaking in tongues, 3 interpretations, the announcements, the collection. It's a ritual, a service. They don't meet together for fellowship and see what happens. It's too scary. What if nothing happens? Well, better nothing happens than go through a ritual. Christians feel guilty if they don't go to church. That's fear. Not fear of God, fear of the church. What will the pastor say? Fear of God's wonderful. Some of these people are wonderful men. They're just ignorant.
Yes.
I've been to some good men. Thinking of one church in America. You can be so general, but I always refer to this. I remember I sat on the platform and the minister said, go for it, brother, just feel free. We're free, this should just be led of the Spirit. And he meant it in his head, but it wasn't true. Because I tried it one time. Because I felt I was sat there and they started to worship, and I really felt God on the worship. And I thought, now's the time to preach. And I said to him, can I preach now? No. Didn't let me. He said, no, he says, let them sing a bit more. He said, they've had a hard day at work, let them let off a bit of steam before you have the word. You can't preach first, you have to have half an hour's worship. So they had another half hour, and I thought, just hold on. But I really felt it was God to get up. They can't order the service. I remember another church, I was preaching on communion, Sunday morning. So I know they have communion, so I thought, it's no point in having communion, and then I preach because I'm going to undo all what they've done and criticise it. So I said, it's communion. I said, I want to preach on I said, could I preach before the communion this morning and then after? He says, oh no, he said, this is the way we do it. And yet they think they're free. They couldn't even alter the order of service. Do you think that's amazing? And I've tried it a few times and I just don't bother now. They say, feel free, brother. I say thanks, and I think I don't feel free. Strange, isn't it? They've got to go through the order. If Jesus turned up, he'd have to wait his turn to preach, because they wouldn't know it was Jesus. Don't forget, they didn't recognise Jesus, did they? When he came, they didn't recognise him, so if he came, they wouldn't recognise him. And he'd say, well, you can, but there's an item first to the announcements and collection. They wouldn't say, scrap the meeting. Because it's religion has to be ruled by fear. There's no other way you can control people and get them to church except fear. You'll Little coal goes out of the fire, it'll die on its own. You need to get fellowship. You have to come to the local church, you have to finance the local church. How will a pastor get his wages if you don't pay your tithes? And it's fear. It's got to be fear. There's no other way to rule people, because you won't go if you don't feel like it, will you? That's no good. They've got to use it. There's no other way to keep people coming. That they can feel guilty if they don't, guilty if they don't pay the tithes, guilty if they don't do this. Have you prayed today? Have you read your Bible today? I don't think Jesus was disciplined in that way, do you? And had 5 minutes prayer in the morning, then he'd read a bit of Isaiah, then he says, okay, let's go and preach now. He was the Word. Yeah. Listen, when you get so full of God that you're the Word, you pray without ceasing, you're praying on the way to work, you're studying God. Get out of that ritual. You need discipline to change your mind, but then get free. So I've no criticism, I'm saying this, if somebody wants to have a title, they want to go to a building to have fellowship, they want to worship God, I'm not worried about those, that doesn't matter. It's the guilt associated with not conforming. Yeah. That's what I'm challenging. Not going to a building and calling it a church, whatever. I don't mind. It's the fear. That's religion, fear. Yeah. Okay. So, how far have we come? An order of service means the Spirit has to fit in with it. If you have an order of service, you've predetermined what you'll do, so the Spirit has to fit in with that. And don't forget, brother, I say what time, and just go on as long as you want, but about 12:15, the bus comes, so people might start leaving. How am I going to feel? I'll finish at 12:15, won't I? Just go on as long as you want, but we generally finish about. As soon as I say we generally finish about, I know that they mean it. I don't want to say no, you've got to stop, but so they say be free, but then put a limit on it. Complete lie and contradiction, isn't it? You can't say feel free, but we finish about. It's black, but it's white as well. Number 10, manipulation, promiscuity and pornography. Massive tool. Massive tool. Used by the media to pervert the mind of whole continents, to accept perversion as normal and family life as obsolete. Do you know how to travel to the third world? They've been forced through fear and of losing the feeding programs to accept abortion, sexual perversions against the better judgment. Kenya, Uganda do not want to accept homosexuality. They do not want to. The government, nobody wants to. They will, because our government said we'll stop the AIDS program. By AIDS, I mean food aid, not the disease. Yeah. They control them. They force them. Wicked, isn't it? In 2006, so it's a bit dated, it doesn't matter, Hollywood produced 607 titles, blockbuster titles, okay. In that same year, the global pornographic, multi-billion-dollar industry released 11,000 titles on DVD. There's a part in America that's where they do them all. It's estimated, the adult entertainment, pornography in other words, is a nice word for it, is worth 10 to 15 billion dollars a year. This is big, big, big money. And it's flooding the world with images. Kids, it's on the internet all the time. 80% of hits on Google are pornography. It's massive, massive, massive. Pastors are in the vestry watching it, hooked on it. Not because they're bad men. They've just looked at an image and thought, woo! But the wife's not there, the vestry's locked, and they watch a bit, and I won't watch that again. Then the next day they type and they think, it's powerful stuff. Don't you get emails? I get emails and images coming up. Adverts coming up. Russian women want sexy English men. Well, I missed that, so I'm all right. But if I was a sexy British man, maybe I'd be tempted to click. Images are coming up all the time, men have to be strong. I told my boys, Nathan and I said, look, I can't hide you from that, you're going to see it. All men are exposed to it now. As you grow up, you're going to see images that I never saw as a child. You've got to decide what you want to watch. I can't stop you. You'll watch it at your friend's house. I can't monitor you all the time. I can't lock the computer. Your friend's got it. And do you know what? It doesn't help men at all. No. Steve will tell you he works with sexual dysfunction people. And pornography is more likely to make men impotent than virile. That's what it does. And pornography that you think would stimulate a man has the opposite effect. It destroys family life. Many a marriage has been broken because the man couldn't keep his woman happy because he watches pornography. I know of instances. In fact, a friend of mine has just, marriage just broke up because her husband was hooked on pornography. He's a Christian. He says, I don't find you attractive anymore. I find her attractive. I think she's a very attractive woman. Physically. He said, I don't find you attractive anymore because he's hooked on pornography. Watching all those images and stimulation, then his wife doesn't satisfy. It's a killer in every single way, perverting your mind, it ruins your body, it doesn't do what you think it does. It's like a drug. You think, whoa, it's wonderful. What experiences are on the drug? And it's frying your brains. Do you understand? Whenever it's the devil, what seems good is actually destroying you. Number 11, last one. Mind control. But I'm not talking about control with images and manipulation in the media. I'm talking about controlling you as you would a robot. The US government confirmed they had programs going back to the 50s, such as MK Ultra and Monarch, to control people. They experimented on thousands of people. There was called the Monarch, the Muck Talk boys. Thousands of young men were taken away from their homes and experimented with mind control. Have you seen Bourne, the Bourne films?
Yeah, all of them.
Mind control. He had the chip in his shoulder. A trained assassin. Mind control. They're triggered and they often have sleepers and they can be there 20 years. Hollywood's involved with mind control. They put messages on. Whenever they put the Mickey Mouse on, notice the pop stars, they often have Mickey Mouse things on. It's a trigger, they're mind controlled. But all is they're mind controlled.
Miley Cyrus.
Yes. They're mind control victims. They're split personality. I won't go into it, you can read it there. They traumatise them. They're brought up into witchcraft families. They're raped constantly from 2 or 3 years old. They're beaten, they're left in, they're absolutely tortured. And what happens? Your mind fractures. They've proved it scientifically. Is it Mengele, his name, the Nazi who went to America? He was in charge of it in America. And they said by systematic torture, they could split a person's personality and it decompartmentalises your mind. So the traumas are in there and you're here. So when you're in this, you're normal. But when they trigger you, you go into that. So they use them for couriers. Henry Kissinger had one. And she was like, and they're super clever in the brain. It was his filing cabinet. She could remember facts and figures. They use them as couriers to presidents and that. They use them as sex slaves. All presidents of America have had sex slaves and all that. It's unbelievable what they do, and you can read about it. There's testimonies of people who miraculously have got out of this mind control. But I'm not going to get into that. But there's a declassified document. So this is the American government now admitting, of course that was the 50s, you see. Do you think they don't do it now? They're telling you what they did 30 years ago, so it's all right, you know. That they can pass from a fully awakened state to a deep hypnotic control state by telephone. A trigger, a word on the telephone, like hypnosis, by receiving written matter or by the use of a code signal, something on television and a Disney film can send them. That control those hypnotised can be passed from one individual to another without great difficulty. It has been shown by experimentation with these girls that they can act as unwilling couriers for information purposes. CIA, MI5. Now, that's what I meant. That's not me or somebody criticised them. These are now been declassified and they're telling what they found with their experiments. Do you think they're not carrying on? Yeah. Here's what Aldous Huxley said. You've heard of Huxley, haven't you? This is what he said in his book, Brave New World. It's perfectly possible for a man to be out of prison and yet not free. To be under no physical strain and yet to be psychologically captive, compelled to think, feel and act as a representative of the national state or some private interest within the nation wants him to think, feel and act. The nature of psychological compulsion is such that those who act under constraint remain under the impression that they are acting on their own initiative. The victim of mind manipulation doesn't know he's a victim. To him, the walls of his prison are invisible and he believes himself to be free. Imagine everyone on the planet under that mind control. Complete slaves, but believe that you're free. It's now possible. That he is not free is apparent only to other people. His servitude is strictly objective. Now, 1958, how far have they advanced now? I'll tell you. Microwaves can control people, put thoughts in your mind, did you know? Certain frequencies. Microwaves are not just your box, that's a certain frequency, okay? Your telephones, that's another one. That's why they've got these heart transmitters, that they can bounce off the ionosphere, change weather patterns. They can also put thoughts in a whole town and they won't know it's nothing, it's their own thoughts. Well, the devil does it. Go and rob that bank. Oh, I hate her. Where does the thought come from? Where does the thought come from when you get a wicked thought? It come from Satan, didn't it?
Yeah.
How did he get it into your brain? Tell me. How did the devil get it in your brain? Telepathy. What do you want to call it? I'll tell you what, when the devil puts a thought in your brain is biological, it's living, it's physical. Your brain's not spiritual. How does the thought get there? We're now finding out the way you can get spiritual thoughts into physical people. We're becoming gods, don't forget. God knows how to put a thought in your mind. Satan knows how to put a thought in your mind. Now humans are becoming like God and knowing how to put thoughts in your mind. Does that seem too far-fetched? We're learning now microwaves. We didn't know about microwaves. We can make people ill. We can put cancer in people using microwaves slowly over 6 months. We'll never know. We can do it. Mind control. The whole world can be controlled. I believe they're free. This is the aim of Satan.
They're doing it the other way around, though, aren't they? They've got toys and it's thought control that's manipulating the toys.
Yeah, they can wire you up now that you can think and move things. They've done experiments where a man can think, they wire it to his brain. They did it with one and a man thought, and there was a robot 1,000 miles away or whatever, and he thought and it moved its arm. They can tap into it. It's unbelievable. But this mind control is very, very big. I've got some things in the book, appendixes and that. So as well as all that, trauma and all those things to control you, this is much more easy. That was difficult, training a child, traumatising him, but now it's easy. They don't have to do all that. We've bypassed that now, that's old hat. That's why they're bringing it out. That's why they're accepting what they did. Because it's old hat now, they don't have to traumatise them. Have you seen the Manchurian Candidate? If you're not watching, that mind control the Americans, they took some, they traumatised them, they made them kill people and their own friends, they said, now shoot him, they controlled them and then they sent them out as very, very powerful. And the man was going to become President of America. People are controlled, even in presidents, and they're groomed. Bill Clinton went through the Jesuit College, Georgetown, they'd been through these things. It was the drug handler in Arkansas where he was. Millions of dollars of drugs went through Bill Clinton because the planes used to land there from Mexico with the drugs in. They're all in it. They're all in it. They're mind controlled often. 3 stages. First, the Industrial Revolution to take over our bodies. Take people off the land, put them in factories, make them part of the machinery, putting a wheel on a car and tightening a nut up. Comes along, wheel on a car, nut up, wheel on a car. Robots do it now, but they made us robots. Shaving the hairs off gooseberries all day, put the tails on sweetie mice, putting frogmen in Kellogg's packets. It was all done manually at first, now robots do it. But the Industrial Revolution turned us into machines, made us just part of the great thing. The school education system was to prepare people to work in factories from the fields. That was to control our bodies. Now the age of computers, mass media communication, that is to control our minds. We're in the age where it's controlling our thinking by the media, by manipulation. And the last one is to control our spirits. That's the last one. Worship to Satan. At the moment he's got the worship, he's got the body, and he's got the mind, but the devil wants the heart. Worship to Satan. That's the last stage. But that'll be through the religion, initiation, I suppose. Conclusion. Well, maybe I've not got all the details. Maybe my explanation's not perfect.
I think it's.
But I'll tell you what, whatever I've said and whatever you agree, whatever you disagree, whatever you throw out, whatever you digest, none of you can deny this. That very soon, no one will buy or sell without the mark, or the worship, or the number of the name. It's not just the mark, there's three things. Worship's one of them. You've got to worship the beast, have the mark and the number of the name. That's Revelation 13:13 to 17. You have to show it, Jane. But we all agree with that, don't we? That you won't buy or sell. So it's coming to it, isn't it? Whatever I say. So I've finished. Lord help us. You can put the scriptures up as I've finished, as I'm praying. Lord, it's been a difficult study, and maybe I've seemed very critical of certain things, Lord, but I'm just looking for truth. I pray people will understand my heart. That I want to love people and help them. And sometimes the bitter medicine is the only way. Sometimes the truth that hurts is the only way to shock people into reality or to check it out for themselves. Help us, Lord, as we have this breakdown. Bring us back fresh, Lord, for what's to come. Amen.